Hi, and welcome back to our second installment of Communication Principles in the Workplace. These timeless principles, they don't fail. Now, maybe our perception of the workplace has changed dramatically in the recent years. Certainly the economics have changed. But engaging in these timeless communication principles will give you a greater enjoyment at work, make your job more achievable, and hopefully bring you less stress at work. We're going to be talking about quiet promoting, and what we mean about is promoting ourselves. This quiet quitting movement is focused on not my job, not my responsibility, and only doing the bare necessary minimum to keep the job and to go unnoticed. But that doesn't do you any services, and you certainly doesn't add to your growth. We'll talk more about that in future episodes, but right now, it's just important that you understand that if you accept a position with an employer, that you understand your specific responsibilities and you complete those responsibilities absolutely the best. You want to be the best at what you are. And if your job requires unwritten workloads, undocumented expectations, then that's the place where you put those necessary limits on that work transaction. We all have fear related to our jobs. Fear of unemployment, fear of not being able to pay our bills. With the economy as tight as it is, I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing the sensation of waiting for a paycheck to be able to pay the bills, and that can lead to fear. One of the best ways that you can mitigate that fear in the workplace is to ensure that you understand what your responsibilities are and you do it the best. That lowers your risk and makes you a more valuable asset in the short term. Some of the timeless principles that I wanted to talk about are diplomacy, equity, meritocracy, patience, and observation. And those last two go hand in hand. I was given this back in '97. It's just a cheat sheet from a group called Achieving Global. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. But I always hung this on the wall in my office or in my workspace. And it was the basic principles. And they started by focusing on the situation, the issue, or the behavior, never the person or the personality. If you focus on people and personalities, it's almost inevitable that you're going to humiliate somebody. Humiliate a subordinate, they're going to quietly quit on you or just leave altogether. When most people actually physically quit, they're leaving their supervisor, not the organization. If you humiliate a peer or an equal, it's going to make your job a lot more difficult because there won't be the cooperation that you need on that horizontal plane. And I think we all know what happens when you humiliate your boss. You really don't want to go there. The second principle is to maintain the self-confidence and self-esteem of others. That goes right with that humiliation. Most people are busy. Most people are doing the best that they can. And most people earned the position that they're in. If you have a pretty harsh observation that you think somebody was gifted a position and that they're lazy and they're doing a pretty low quality job, it's not likely that they see it that way. And if they do, then it's really critical that the last thing they want is for you to be pointing that out. So you don't need to go there. You want to maintain constructive relationships. It's okay to say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z from you. I understand that you're busy. What do I have to do to help you be able to provide that for me? Always be trying to build, always be trying to grow, always be trying to move forward. You lead by example. Everybody has heard this one. And that goes down to knowing what your job is, your job description, and doing it the best that you can and the best out of anyone else. In 2021, I added my own line to this, and it was start with the why. That may be more of an internal dialogue that you have and less starting with your boss. Unless somebody comes to you directly and asks, what do you think? How do you see this? How can we do this better? And it will happen. I don't want to tell you to go in and start questioning your boss. That's likely not going to begin or end well for you. But if you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I engaged in this activity right now? You'll find that a lot of things that keep you busy, the urgent, unimportant items, may give way to those non-urgent, very important items. That's loosely quoted from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Definitely a good read. I think they've evolved into the Covey-Franklin Institute at this point. So focusing on those one-word principles, diplomacy, being diplomatic, doesn't mean giving up your position, but it does definitely begin with understanding that people believe generally that they're doing their best and that they're working hard and that they're accomplishing. And when you engage with people with an act of diplomacy first, sometimes can be as simple as acknowledging where they're at and the nature of the transaction that you hope to engage in them with to be able to move your position forward. Doesn't always mean giving up what you need in order to find compromise. Equity. This is a tough one because people many times feel that they're not being treated equitable, that they're not getting their fair share. This could be the origin of quiet quitting, that people, they're not paying me to do all of this extra stuff, so I'm only going to do the bare minimum to not get noticed and to not lose my job. I always tried to focus with the equity in the employment transaction internally, and I understood how much it was going to pay and what it was going to ask. I will tell you, oftentimes I made the mistake of investing in the unwritten portion of that job description and giving far too much and blowing through those barricades on my personal boundaries when it comes to exhaustion, fatigue, giving up personal time, and making those compromises where you give without being rewarded, whether it's financially or those other rewards that you seek in a workplace. The one thing that I would never compromise in my work transaction are my ethics and my integrity. And when somebody overtly or discreetly would ask you to do that, that was always a no-go for me, and I never had any trouble enforcing my boundaries on those limits. Meritocracy. Meritocracy. Are you being treated with merit? Have you earned your position? Are the people around you earning the position? Anybody been passed over for a promotion and they felt that it wasn't based on merit, that it was based on unspoken measurements or favoritism? That's a tough word. I'd like to avoid it. Typically speaking, that doesn't happen as often as we may feel like it does. But if you're engaged in an employment transaction that's based on merit, there's a high degree of satisfaction that comes with that. I remember in the 80s when we would try out for sports, you wouldn't hear the results of that until you come to school on Monday, and posted on the corkboard out in the middle of the commons were the results and the rankings and who made the team, who made JV, and who were alternates. And today, I don't think that would ever happen. Some people think that everybody gets a trophy today. I don't see it that way, but that was a true meritocracy. Here was your score, here's how you performed, here was the expected standard, and if you didn't make it that time, a lot of us would go back and ask the coach, hey, what do I got to do different? What do I need to improve? And you can move forward from that. Patience. Anybody in the audience struggle with this as much as I do? Being patient, especially when you see an easy solution to an existing problem, to a why. I can guarantee you that almost every engagement at work could benefit from patience. Patience and observation, the last one. Are you seeing things through different filters, not just your current filter? When you exercise that patience, it slows down the communication. My granddad used to say, make sure that the brain has been started before you engage the mouth. When you're patient, odds are you will change your initial reaction to something several times before you finally, if at all, state your position. I believe Abraham Lincoln would write a strongly worded letter if he was upset about something, put it in an envelope, and then put it in his desk. and then sleep on it. And then the next day he would come back and promptly throw it away because it's not what he wanted to say at all. Lincoln on Leadership is an essay in a book. It's a great read, something I strongly recommend. So at the end of the day, Robert Heinlein wrote a series of books. He had a character named Lazarus Long who said, "It's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt." Every one of us can look back at our path and our journey and see where we could have benefited from that. Well, that's the end of today's segment. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. I would very much love to hear what your comments are and your questions. And I respect that this is a very low production value series on workplace communications. You can go to YouTube and look, and there's thousands of them, very high quality, all very academic and very instructive. We could benefit a lot from it all. But then if there's so much of that resource out there, why do we all still commonly miss the cues and make the same mistakes? So maybe a little bit of a narrative format and a different low production format might be what we're looking for. Thank you. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode where we talk about phrasing things as a question.